maybe you're seeing the end of a brilliant career by Venus Williams, arguably one of the top three, maybe, and definitely one of the top 5 female tennis players that have ever graced the court, even though her younger sister is better. We'll just go ahead and put it like that. Let's go to the hotlines where we find Commando Dave. Game time. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, JB and KB?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good as long as Big P's back there crashing the board.
Always.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, what a difference a week can make.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what makes football, especially NFL football, in my estimation, so compelling. The week-to-week drama of it.
Yeah.
And the week between the end of the Seahawks wild card victory and the end of the division playoff loss against the Bears was summed up eloquently by Jim McKay years ago as the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Mm-hmm.
The thrill of watching the Seahawks just handle the Super Bowl champ Saints, spot them 10 points twice, make play after play while stopping the Saints from making plays. And then the agony of watching the same Seahawks, man, a week later, drop opportunity after opportunity on both sides of the ball, and just as easily as they had pulled the big win out of the hat one week, they stuffed one back in the hat the next.
I can't argue with it. You know, I've been struggling with it all week as far as what could have been. You know, you let it go on Sunday, especially when they go out there and basically crap on themselves all over in the first quarter. I called it, I called it bird droppings, if you will, with those wide receivers that I used to call that or cough drops, because they choked when they had the opportunities. Matt Hasselbeck was definitely putting the ball right on the mark, and they just couldn't reel it in. And if you are going to ascend as at least in not only in the NFC West but in the NFC, you got to make plays like that on the road. And if Mike Williams definitely wants to bring his career all the way back, I understand you got the 3-year extension. You got to be able to play in any weather. It doesn't mean you want to set it up to where you have it like it was in 05 or 06, where you made that Super Bowl run through Quest Field, of course, Seahawks Stadium, as you like to call it, and it was originally called. But, in order to get to that realm, and I think that we're heading in that right direction where we can get back there, he's going to have to step it up. And I think there is still a couple notches on his belt on which he can definitely ascend on this squad.
Yeah, one of the things I think kind of frustrated me when I was watching the Bears and the Seahawks is that knowing that the weather is cold, your hands are a little frigid, it's much tougher to get your fingers wrapped around that football. But when, things were going wrong in the first drive and in the first quarter, you look over to the sideline, you didn't see Seahawk receivers warming up and taking some passes from maybe Lozman or Whitehurst or somebody and trying to warm those hands up. You saw them with the hand warmers standing on the sideline trying to stay warm. To me, I would think that when it seems like you're having trouble with the weather and catching the football, what do you do when the defense is on the field? You work on it. And I didn't see any of that out of the Seahawk team. And that was one of the things that frustrated me. Another one of the things that frustrated me was the fact that you had a young couple of guys in the secondary that really, and it wasn't just guys in the secondary. I think it was also running backs and receivers and things of that nature. But the footing looked like an issue, and I sometimes you have to slow down a little bit to get your footing. But the Bears played on the same surface. The Bears played in the same weather, and they didn't have the same problems as the Seahawks, and that's what's somewhat frustrating to be a fan.
And you talk about that first quarter, KB, Lawyer Malloy and John Carlson pretty much set the tone, I think, for the entire day.
Yep.
Right in that first quarter, especially Carlson. I mean, when you get burned for a long touchdown like Lawyer Malloy did, you just line up and take the kickoff and start working on scoring a touchdown, which is what the Seahawks looked like they were doing. But when Carlson went down, and the way he unnecessarily went down, the rhythm is over. I mean, you're not lining up after a good gain and proceeding to march the ball down the field. You're standing around watching your unconscious teammate, waiting for the cart to come out, and then watching your teammate get loaded on and watching it drive off. And now it's second down, but it's 12 minutes and 45 seconds later instead of 45 seconds later. So, to me, that just, really threw the entire tone off as far as the Seahawks. And, they always say, man, don't leave your feet. I mean, it was really in that situation, unless it's the game's on the line, there's no need to leave your feet right there.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I told my son when we were watching the game. He said, he thought it was a dirty play. I said, no, that's football. That's football, and that's the difference. Is I understand that they try and protect safety, but you don't leave your feet in that situation. It's kind of like in a pass rush situation. That's one of the ways you can get destroyed. Just being a pass rusher is leaving your feet, depending on how you do leave it, and especially when you're putting yourself up in the air. You don't know. You're basically putting everything to chance. You can't control your fall. You can't land on your feet at that point in time. If you're, and I said this as well. When you're as big as John Carlson, what are you doing jumping up in the air? I think I said this before. Duck your shoulder down and take them on like the big man you are.
Too many people saw tapes of what was it, LeGarrette Blount, and going all the way back to if you want to look at tight ends, at Tulamili and what he was able to do when he was at BYU. But
you want to do that. You want to do that than play run track and field.
This is what I'm getting at on the whole thing. That to me looked like a West Coast football move in the Midwest. In the Midwest, in that weather, when it's freezing cold like that, you smash somebody. Well, he should know. There's no more finesse.
He should know that. He should know that, but he should know that coming from Notre Dame, even though it was a down Notre Dame. He was basically at home when he did that.
Right. And when you're talking about, the potential of getting injured, really, it could have been anything. He could have pulled anything. Just, jumping, trying to hurdle a guy like that. Didn't have to go out the way he did, but bottom line is, last week we talked about who had to have a big game. We talked about the receivers, and then we concluded that Matt Hasselbeck needed to have another big game. And you said it in the earlier, JP, Matt Hasselbeck was having, Matt Hasselbeck had a big game. And it's just, you couldn't have asked for the guy to do anything else but put the ball where he was putting the ball.
Absolutely, because the Hasselbeck that we saw struggle for that 3-game stretch, there could have been at least 2 pick sixes. At least 2 of them, and they weren't there, and that's what made it so disheartening, just to see, like I said, the bird droppings.
The most disheartening thing was seeing my man, that I've been singing all the praises for all year long about how great he's played in his first year in the NFL, get run over by a quarterback at the goal line. That just kind of summed it up for me. I was like, this is not the Seahawks' day right here.
No, it definitely wasn't.
And I'm talking about Earl Thomas. Sorry.
Well, he'll definitely learn from that. I'm not worried about him, but you got to be excited for the future of the Seattle Seahawks, and Pete Carroll doing what he does is making the changes and moving forward with his quote-unquote program. Well, what do you like about the Jeremy Bates firing, the Tom Cable hiring, and now Derek Bevel's joining the staff as a new offensive coordinator?
Well, as I said earlier this season, the blowing up is going to be a lot of having to make repairs. And so I just see it as a continuation of what's been since Pete Carroll got here. And to that, I like what I see because, if you're making moves, either in player personnel or you're making moves in the front office, the bottom line is you're constantly working on the organization and trying to improve it.
Right.
And if you think the guy that's not calling the plays or is calling the plays, well, actually, if you watch the games, and since you're the head coach, I'm pretty sure you're watching the games, the guy is not calling the plays that would be the most advantageous for the Seahawks. And so, go ahead and take that. And then it goes back to what I said about Pete Carroll. Him and his USC guys, man, what's drawing me into Pete Carroll is like, look, that was then. This is now.
Right.
And if we can't, if I don't think you can get the job done, I can't draft you. I'll cut you, and now I'm going to prove
I'll fire you.
Yep. That's exactly right. And I like the move. I think there's a lot of people that said that it kind of surprised them. I think it only surprised some of those people because of the fact that he came with them from USC. But for me, like you said, when you looked at the way that this offense played over the course of the season, it's a business decision. It's a move that I think keeps Pete Carroll in his seat a little bit longer. as long as he's able to have more success. And for me, you look at what Pete Carroll was doing down at USC, even with Norm Chow, it wasn't really an aired-out offense. They really relied on the running game, the smash-mouth running game. Look at when they had Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush was a Heisman Trophy winner, but he really wasn't the feature back. I mean, most of those tough yards were gained by Lindell White, and the absence of a running game or a sense of a tough running game here with the Seahawks, I think, didn't sit well in Pete Carroll.
Well, the one thing that I'll put to you like this is I like the fact that, look, just go back to the frustrations of this season, okay? Mm-hmm. The third down conversions, and especially the fourth down conversions, okay?
Play calling on those situations.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And really, you go to really the turning point in the season, which I think was when they went down to Oakland, and Red Bryant got hurt, and we saw those ridiculous fourth down conversions or fourth down tries, when in contrast, you're sitting there looking at the Raiders run the ball down your throat. And that's what I'm liking, especially when you talk about, the Beastquake run, whatever you want to label it as, Marshawn Lynch's run there against the Saints, trying to establish a strong running game, constantly trying to get offensive line, a cohesive offensive line unit, and that started with Alex Gibbs, leaving right before the first game of the season. That's one thing that Pete Carroll knows. If he establishes the trenches, everything else can work off of that. And I think with bringing Tom Cable in, you have to feel confident that the Seattle Seahawks are going to go away from a finesse type of game and get to more power structure football.
And you said it just a little while ago, that was like a pivotal point in the season when you went down there and just got crushed.
Mm-hmm.
So, mystery why Tom Cable, it's a mystery, and that's really not a mystery. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, a Raiders fan. He goes, kind of a mystery why Tom Cable got fired. And, I said, look, man, that's not a mystery. It's Al Davis. So it's really not,
right.
It's not a mystery. That's how Al Davis rolls. And so, bottom line is, to the benefit, of getting a guy like that was a head coach last season, and now he's, heading up your offensive line this season. And the bottom line is, whatever happened with Tom Cable, they're in the locker room or the coach's room or whatever. Bottom line is, man, Tom Cable's a guy, you really shouldn't be messing with.
Right.
And so he brings that kind of
that attitude. Yes, I love it. Right.
With underlying respect and to an offensive line that needs to start putting some fear in teams and get some respect.
Hey,
nasty.
Yeah, Pete Carroll might have hired Tom Cable. Tom Cable might be, the Luca Brasi of the coaching staff, because Pete Carroll doesn't seem like the type of guy. Yeah, he can lay the hammer down as far as your contract is concerned, whether or not you're going to be on that team. But now you got he's got some muscle now behind him.
Hey, Tom, go take care of my lightweight.
Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. Well, let's get on with what you guys talked about earlier, man. It's championship weekend, and you guys know how I feel about fantasy football, man. This is the real football. The real NFL fans are right here and excited about this weekend. The NFL's Final Four bigger than any Final Four any day because of the prize, in my estimation, the Lombardi Trophy. And there's not a more historic championship weekend that I can ever remember. I mean, when you're talking about the NFC being represented, they're represented in this weekend by two of the most storied franchises in the National Football League.
Absolutely.
There are teams that came into the NFL after face mask, and the Bears and the Packers ain't one of them.
No.
And, so when the Hallis Trophy is up for grabs 1 week, and the Lombardi Trophy a couple weeks after that, I mean, that's real fantasy football right there, man.
There has to be a sense of pride for, and that's why it's even harder to pick the Chicago-Green Bay matchup, even though I believe Green Bay will prevail. But you're talking about playing for the George Hallis Trophy in Chicago.
I know.
And you look at these teams, and really I was looking at a breakdown of it. A third of the Super Bowl appearances have been made by these four teams. A quarter of the Super Bowl championships won have been by these 4 teams. There is so much tradition riding in this week, and when you talk about the defenses that are playing in it, look, you can't go wrong if you're the NFL or if you're just a fan of football. I'm loving it. I think that's going to be nice. I mean, you're talking about both games at game time are going to be, you can say Ice Bowl Junior, if you will, because neither game is going to see temperatures in the 20s. Yeah. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be rocking. It's gonna be soccer, and it's gonna be some great football there that you only should get in January.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and man, from what we saw last week, Green Bay just manhandling the number 1 seed in the NFC. Just took them down at home. So I'm interested to see what kind of firepower the Packers going to have this weekend, because again, man, Aaron Rodgers now 3 years later, now we're seeing what the Green Bay Packers was trying to give everybody the hint. Brett Favre, you got to go, man.
Exactly. You got to go, man.
$20 million, and don't play football, okay? Just come out and wave to the crowd, because we're going with Aaron Rodgers,
right?
Man, because in 3 years, this cat's going to have a cold-blooded game in the division playoffs down there in Atlanta.
It's so reminiscent of Joe Montana and Steve Young. It just is. I mean, you look at it, it just tells you in different ways history that just repeats itself. And Green Bay's got a good thing going on, and that they're doing exactly what the 49ers did. Making sure that you're getting good play out of your quarterbacks and you're drafting quarterbacks on the regular to make sure that you're always ready.
Yeah. One of the things that was talked about on the AFC side with the Jets is what their defense has been able to do against, some of the top quarterbacks in the league. Talking about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. While the Green Bay Packers, I mean, they've been able to do a pretty good. Matt Ryan isn't no slouch. And their defense has been able to shut down Michael Vick and shut down Matt Ryan. And so on the NFC side, I think that you got a pretty good argument for one of the better defenses in the Green Bay Packers as well.
We're talking about good arguments. I tried to make one last week for the Seahawks defense, making Jay Cutler wilt. And I said not like Wilt Chamberlain, but then the guy went out there. I got to give him props for probably tuning in online to listen to Game Time Sports Talk, because he heard me saying that he was going to wilt. He went out there and played like Wilt Chamberlain. Played big. You know what I mean? What I'm getting at. I mean, Jay Cutler really played big last week, and in the NFC championship game, you got 2 interesting quarterbacks facing each other, and man, it's going to be a goodie, man. And then in the AFC, you talk about historic and compelling. The Pittsburgh Steelers, man, in position for an incredible 7th Super Bowl championship, and to accomplish it, they got to go to the house of its most noted Super Bowl nemesis, the Dallas Cowboys. But the bottom line is, first things first. Can they get by the team that started the season on HBO, talking the talk, and now at the end is walking the walk, having wilted the Colts and ripped up the Patriots act.
Yep. Exactly. Absolutely.
And man, the New York Jets, that lore of that team was built on the swagger of Broadway Joe. Ironically, a guy from Pennsylvania who grew up a Steelers fan. And of the 4 teams,
element out there about the Steelers doing that on the Cowboys turf, something doesn't ring right. But what I'm loving is that we'll finally be talking about Super Bowl 45 starting Monday. There you go. Last shout-outs, Commando.
Man, my last shout-outs go out to Coach Tomlin and Coach Smith. Either way, make us proud.
There you go. Definitely. I can't say it any better. Hey, Commando, enjoy the conference championship games. We'll catch you on the other side talking Super Bowl 45. That's right. My man, Commando Dave, checking in and now. Of course, that's Commando Dave here on Game Time Sports Talk, brought to you weekday afternoons from 1 till 3, right here on the Z, 1620 AM, KYIZ. We're in Seattle, Martin Luther King Jr. County. Your hotline numbers are 206-325-1420. And in Tech City, Pierce County, points south, and points beyond, including on the World Wide Web or live streaming at www.ztwins.com.
206-329-7881.
Well, want to hear from you, Bears fans, Steeler fans, what's up, Jet fans? Yeah, Packer fans, where you at? Who's going to win and why? What Super Bowl do you think we're going to see after Sunday's matchup? Should be very interesting. Hit us up. Also hit us up online via GameTime@ZTwins.com. Hit us up at our Game Time Nation page at GTN206.com. Facebook.com/ZTwinsRadio, as well as, of course, tweeting us at Z-Twins Game Time or at Z-Twins Radio. JB along with KB and Big P here in Studio 3Z on a Friday edition of the realest sports talk show in the Northwest. Game Time!